Welcome back to the deep dive. This time, we're diving deep into a case that really shook San Antonio.
Yeah,
The disappearance and death of Andreine McDonald.
right.
You gave us court transcripts, news reports, even audio from a true crime podcast. Like, you
Oh, wow.
really went deep on this one. I
Yeah,
can see why you're so fascinated by this case.
absolutely. And it's a case that has so much more to it than just the headlines.
Right.
This is a story of ambition, marriage that wasn't what it seemed, and the challenges investigators face when a body vanishes.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
You can see Andrine's incredible drive in how she built Starlight Homes.
Hmm.
Starting with just 3 residents, she grew it into a multi-million-dollar company.
Amazing.
Talk about the American dream in action.
Yeah.
But her story starts in Jamaica, right?
Yes, Andrine had this dream of coming to America,
Yeah.
and she moved to the U.S. and built this incredible life for herself.
Mhm.
She met Andre McDonald, a U.S. Air Force major, and they married in 2009. They had a beautiful home, a successful business, a young daughter named Elena.
Wow.
From the outside, they seemed to have it all.
The all-American dream, as they say.
Yeah,
But then on March 1st, 2019, everything changed. Andrine vanished, didn't show up for work, which was completely out of character for her.
her employees knew how dedicated she was to her routine, like she never missed work or the gym.
Wow.
They even called the gym, but no one had seen her. And when they checked her phone, purse and keys were gone, but her car was still at home.
Oh, wow.
It was clear something was very wrong.
So the police are at the house. They're finding disturbing clues.
Right.
What was Andre doing during all of this?
He told the deputy that he had taken their daughter to school and then reported to work at Lackland Air Force Base, where he's a cyber warfare analyst.
Okay.
When he heard Andrine was missing, he rushed back home, but then quickly left again, thinking she might be at a nearby hospital for migraine treatment.
So Andre rushes to the hospital thinking Andrine might be there for a migraine.
Right.
What happened when he got there?
Well, there was someone at the hospital with the same last name, but it wasn't Andrine.
Okay.
And when the deputy contacted Andre to tell him this, he claimed he already left because he'd forgotten his cell phone and wanted to update Andrine's mother, Maureen, about her supposedly being hospitalized.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Going back home without your phone when you think your wife is in the hospital? It sounds like he was trying to buy time.
Yeah.
What did the investigators find when they searched the house?
That's when things took a darker turn. Investigators found blood and hair in the bathroom, and even more disturbing, a burn pile in the backyard with a zipper that was later confirmed to be from Andrine's blouse.
A burn pile, that's chilling. And then on top of all that, the investigators start digging into their relationship and find text messages revealing accusations of infidelity and financial disputes.
Right.
So this seemingly perfect marriage was already on shaky ground.
It seems that way the text messages revealed Andrine was involved with a man named Aubin Hall, a businessman from Jamaica. They had dated when Andrine was younger and rekindled their relationship in 2017.
Okay, so there's another man in the picture.
Yeah.
How did Andre find out about this?
He discovered it in a pretty dramatic way. Andrine got 2 new tattoos, an initial A on her hand and a date on her wrist. Andre became suspicious and did some digging online, eventually finding a photo of Aubin with the exact same A tattoo. The date turned out to be Aubin's birthday.
Wow, talk about adding fuel to the fire. It sounds like their marriage was far from perfect.
You're right, Andre was furious when he found out he threatened divorce, unless Andrine ended things with Aubin covered the tattoos and promised never to travel to Jamaica without him.
So there's tension, infidelity arguments. Was there any indication of violence in their relationship before Andrine disappeared?
There was one incident a friend witnessed where Andrine and Andre got into a physical altercation. It seems their relationship was becoming increasingly volatile.
Okay, so we have a troubled marriage, a missing woman, bloodstains, a burn pile, and then investigators found some suspicious items in the garage, right?
Yes.
What was the story with those?
Yes, remember those items investigators noticed during their first visit to the McDonald house? A shovel axe gas cans.
Right.
Turns out Andre went to Lowe's the day after Andrine disappeared and bought all of those things.
Wow.
They even have security footage of him purchasing those items.
And to make things even worse, they found a hammer in the trash with Andrine's blood on it. That's not looking good for Andre at all.
No, it wasn't. And remember that torn up receipt investigators found?
Yeah.
It was from Lowe's, and it was for those very same items.
At this point, it feels like the evidence is really stacking up against Andre.
Yeah.
Did they arrest him right then for murder?
Not for murder, but they did arrest him for tampering with evidence, specifically based on that torn receipt from Lowe's and Docking. It seemed like he was trying to cover his tracks.
That makes sense. But where was Andreine?
That was the big question looming over everything. For months, the community searched tirelessly for her. Volunteers combed through fields and wooded areas near the McDonald home, hoping for any sign of her. But it was all dead ends. It must have been agonizing for her family and friends, not knowing what happened to her.
Absolutely. While all this was going on, investigators were digging deeper into their business dealings and a new possible motive emerged. Tell me about that.
It turns out that Andreine and Andre had conflicting claims about who really owned and managed their business, Starlight Homes.
Okay.
Andreine was adamant that it was her company built on her ideas and hard work.
So on top of everything else, there was conflict over their business.
Yes, we actually have access to some WhatsApp messages where Andreine clearly states that Starlight Homes was her idea and wouldn't have happened without her.
Wow.
She was very assertive about her control over the company.
So maybe there was some resentment there. Perhaps Andre was envious of his wife's success.
That's certainly a possibility investigators considered.
Andrine's friend even told investigators that someone was going to snap in that relationship because it had become so toxic. It's a classic tale, isn't it? Ambition, betrayal, jealousy, a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
But we still don't know what happened to Andreine. Did they ever find her?
They did, but not for a long time. It wasn't until July 11th, 2019, 133 days after she disappeared, that her skeletal remains were discovered.
Over 4 months.
Yeah.
Where did they find her?
A man was out in a farmer's field just 6 miles from the McDonald home, retrieving a cow skull with his tractor when he stumbled upon the remains right along the tree line.
That's a horrifying way to make a discovery. What was the cause of death?
Unfortunately, because of the state of decomposition, the medical examiner couldn't determine a specific cause of death.
Okay.
However, they did find evidence of blunt force trauma to her spinal cord, ribs, and jaw.
So they finally had a body and evidence of a violent death.
Right.
What happened to Andre then?
He was rearrested, this time charged with murder.
Okay.
But just days before his trial was set to begin, something truly unexpected happened. Andre confessed.
He confessed to whom, and what did he say?
He first confessed to his mother, Jackie, claiming that Andrine's death was an accident.
Okay.
Then he called Andrine's mother and sister and told them the same story.
A classic case of a story changing when the pressure's on. What was his version of events? Did it match the evidence?
Not exactly in his confession, and later on the stand during the trial, Andre claimed that he and Andreine had a heated argument at the tax preparer's office after he discovered she had secretly started a new business without him.
Okay.
They continued arguing at home, and he threatened divorce and to split their business in half.
And that's when things turned violent, according to him.
Yes, he claimed Andreine became enraged at the thought of splitting the business and attacked him, spitting in his face and punching him.
Oh, wow.
He said he defended himself by kicking her, causing her to fall. Then he left her on the floor, went to put their daughter back to bed, and when he returned 30 minutes later, Andreine was dead.
So he's claiming self-defense. Did anyone believe him?
Well, his confession and testimony certainly threw a wrench in the prosecution's case. They pointed out the inconsistencies in his story, like why he didn't call 911 if it was an accident, and how his actions afterward, burning her clothes, disposing of her body, purchasing those incriminating items, looked a lot more like a cover-up than a panic reaction.
And what about the hammer with Andrine's blood on it? How did he explain that away?
This is where his story takes an even stranger turn. He claimed that after the investigators left his house that first time he went back to the field where he dumped Andrine's body, took the hammer with him, poured gasoline on her, set her on fire, and then beat her already deceased body with the hammer in a fit of rage.
He went back and further desecrated her body. Why?
He claimed he was overcome with anger and blamed Andreine for the entire situation. He even said he went back with the intention of attacking whoever had caused all this, and since Andreine was dead, she became the target of his rage.
That's disturbing. So the trial was a battle of narratives, the prosecution arguing for a calculated murder, and the defense claiming self-defense and a tragic accident. What did the jury make of all this?
They deliberated for nearly 11 hours.
Wow.
And after sending a note to the judge saying they were hopelessly deadlocked, the judge had to step in and encourage them to work towards a unanimous decision.
So what was the verdict?
Andre McDonald was found not guilty of murder, but guilty of the lesser charge of manslaughter.
Manslaughter after everything we've learned. How did the family react to that?
Andrine's family was devastated. They felt that manslaughter didn't fully represent the brutality of her death, especially after witnessing his cold and remorseless testimony on the stand. It just didn't add up.
It's hard to imagine the pain and frustration Andrine's family must have felt.
Yeah.
Here's a woman who built a successful business, had so much life ahead of her, and it was all taken away.
Right.
And to have the person responsible found guilty of a lesser charge, it just doesn't seem right.
It's understandable why they felt that way, especially after hearing how the jury reached their decision.
Yeah.
It turns out things weren't so clear-cut behind closed doors. We actually have some insights from two jurors who spoke publicly after the trial. Brandon Meady and Rudy Ruiz both voted for murder, but had a tough time convincing their fellow jurors.
Wait, so some jurors actually believed Andre's self-defense claim, even after all the evidence and his strange behavior?
Not exactly. It seems like everyone on the jury agreed that Andre was responsible for Andrine's death. The challenge was determining if it was intentional murder or reckless manslaughter.
Right.
And as you know, those charges carry very different sentences.
Right, life in prison versus up to 20 years. That's a huge difference. So what were the arguments that swayed the jurors towards manslaughter?
According to Meady, the lack of a definitive cause of death played a big role. Without knowing exactly how Andreine died, some jurors were hesitant to convict on the more serious charge.
I can see how that would give some jurors pause. But what about all the other evidence? The blood, the burn pile, those items he bought at Lowe's. Didn't that convince them he had planned this?
It seems that Andre's testimony, despite all its inconsistencies, had a significant impact. He painted this picture of a volatile argument where things spiraled out of control. He managed to plant seeds of doubt, even if his story didn't completely add up.
So he convinced some jurors that he acted recklessly rather than with premeditation. Did they buy his claim that Andreine was the aggressor?
Interestingly enough, Ruiz said that no juror believed Andre was innocent, or that it was a clear-cut case of self-defense. The issue was the legal definition of recklessness.
Okay.
Some jurors focused on the fact that Andre didn't call 911 after the alleged fight.
Right.
They saw that as a reckless omission rather than proof of malicious intent.
So this reckless omission became the key factor in their manslaughter verdict. It's fascinating how legal definitions can really influence how a jury interprets a case. Were there any specific details from the trial that stuck with the jurors?
There were a few things that stand out. One juror apparently said they'd kicked someone before, without intending to kill them. This statement seemed to resonate with some jurors, reinforcing the idea that a fatal outcome doesn't always equal murderous intent.
It's incredible how personal experiences can sometimes seep into a jury's thinking, even if unintentionally. It just shows how complex and nuanced the deliberation process can be.
Absolutely. And remember, this jury was deadlocked for hours. The judge had to give them special instructions to try and reach a decision. Imagine being in that room trying to reconcile all the evidence, the testimony, and the legal definitions. It must have been incredibly difficult.
So they were under a lot of pressure to come to a decision. Do we know how the final vote broke down?
We don't know the exact numbers, but we know that initially it was 6 for murder and 6 for manslaughter.
Wow.
Then 3 jurors switched their votes, leading to the final 9-3 decision for manslaughter.
It's amazing how just a few individuals can sway the outcome of a trial. You mentioned earlier that Andrine's family was heartbroken by the verdict. What was their reaction?
They were devastated. Imagine sitting through that trial, hearing Andre's version of events, and then having the jury come back with a manslaughter verdict. They felt it didn't reflect the brutality of Andrine's death, especially after witnessing his complete lack of remorse during the trial.
His actions after her death were truly horrifying. Burning her clothes, dumping her body, even desecrating her remains. It's hard to believe he did all that without malicious intent.
It certainly cast doubt on his claims of an accidental death. And Andrine's family felt that his sudden confession just days before the trial was a calculated attempt to manipulate the jury and get a lighter sentence.
It's like he was trying to control the narrative even after everything that happened. Did Andrine's family ever get to confront him about his lies?
Yes, they did. Andrine's sister Cindy spoke directly to Andre in court during his sentencing hearing.
Yeah.
She didn't hold back. She called him a liar and a manipulator, saying that he had robbed their family of their daughter, sister, and mother. She talked about the ongoing pain and trauma he had inflicted, saying, "You left a hole in our hearts."
Wow, that must have been a powerful moment. It's clear that Andrine's family sees his manslaughter conviction as a grave injustice. Did the prosecution share their sentiment?
To some degree, they were disappointed with the verdict, but they acknowledged that the jury, at the very least, held Andre accountable for taking Andrine's life. They maintained that the evidence pointed to murder, but ultimately they respected the jury's decision.
So a sense of acceptance, but definitely tinged with disappointment. But the legal battles didn't end there, did they? There was still the civil lawsuit filed by Andrine's family.
That's right. A San Antonio jury awarded Andrine's family $210 million in a wrongful death lawsuit against Andre. This lawsuit alleged that he intentionally and wrongfully caused Andreine's death, leading to immense pain and suffering for her family. It sought damages not only for the loss of Andreine's life, but also for the emotional distress and loss of companionship they endured.
And the jury agreed with them on that. It feels like a symbolic victory, even though no amount of money can truly make up for their loss.
Absolutely. The civil case gave Andreine's family a platform to share their perspective and their pain. It was a chance to hold Andre accountable in a different arena, separate from the criminal trial.
We've covered the criminal trial, the sentencing, the appeals process, and the civil lawsuit. It's been a long and complicated journey. But what about the human side of this story? How has Andreine's death impacted her family and those who knew her?
That's where the true weight of this tragedy lies.
Yeah.
Andreine's mother, Maureen, talks about her constant grief, saying she thinks about Andreine every night before bed. And Andreine's sister, Cindy, describes it as a sad journey. They're navigating together, supporting each other through the pain.
It's heartbreaking to imagine their loss. And what about Andreine's daughter, Elena? She was so young when her mother disappeared.
Elena is now being raised by Maureen and Cindy. They say she reminds them so much of Andreine, which brings both joy and sorrow. It's a constant reminder of what they've lost, but also a source of strength as they try to give Elena a happy and stable life.
It's a heavy burden to carry, to lose a daughter and a sister, and then raise a child who will always carry the weight of that loss.
It is. And we can't forget about Andre's mother, Jackie. She's in a truly difficult position.
Yeah.
She believes her son is innocent, but acknowledges the immense suffering Andreine's family is going through. She lost a daughter-in-law and a granddaughter, and now her son is in prison. It's a tragedy that has fractured their family beyond repair.
It's a stark reminder that there are no winners in cases like this. Everyone involved is left grappling with loss, grief, and the complexities of a justice system that doesn't always provide the answers or solace we seek.
That's a powerful observation, and it leads to an important question. What happens now? How do we move forward from such a tragedy?
That's a big question, one that Andreine's family, the community of San Antonio, and even those of us observing from afar are left wrestling with.
Right, but before we try to answer that, I think we need to examine one final piece of this complex puzzle, something that adds another layer of intrigue to the case and raises even more questions about what truly happened to Andreine.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. What is it?
It involves a business dispute that goes beyond the conflicts we've already talked about. It delves into the financial intricacies of Starlight Homes, the company Andreine built from scratch, and unveils a potential motive that adds a chilling new dimension to this already tragic case.
All right, you've really got me on the edge of my seat here.
Yeah.
We've talked about the conflicts between Andreine and Andre regarding their business, but what's this new information about Starlight Homes? What else was going on behind the scenes?
Well, remember how Andreine took Starlight Homes from a small operation with just 3 residents to a multi-million-dollar success story?
Yeah.
It's a testament to her ambition and business smarts.
Right, she was the driving force behind the company's success. But how does that tie into this new information? What's the chilling new dimension you mentioned?
Some sources suggest that the company's financial success wasn't as straightforward as it appeared. There were rumors circulating within the business community about potential financial irregularities.
Whoa, hold on. What kind of irregularities are we talking about here?
Whispers of questionable accounting practices, and even allegations that Andreine might have been diverting company funds for personal use.
Wait, are you saying Andreine might have been involved in some sort of fraud?
It's important to emphasize that these are just allegations, and there's no concrete evidence to support them. However, these rumors were out there, and it's possible Andre was aware of them.
So are you suggesting that this could be a motive for Andre? That he might have killed Andreine to protect himself from financial ruin?
It's a possibility that investigators considered of. If Andre believed that Andreine was engaging in fraudulent activities, he might have feared exposure, which could have meant financial disaster for both of them.
That's a pretty strong motive. But wouldn't Andre have been investigated as well if there was any truth to these allegations?
Possibly.
Yeah.
But remember, Andre had top-secret security clearance due to his position in the Air Force. It's conceivable he might have had ways to shield himself from any potential financial fallout.
That's a chilling thought, someone taking a life to protect their financial interests. But we need to be careful here. We don't have any proof that Andreine was involved in anything illegal.
Absolutely. It's crucial to remember that these are unproven allegations. But the fact that they existed adds a new layer of complexity to this case. It makes you question the true nature of their relationship and the events leading up to Andreine's death.
It's a stark reminder that we often only see the surface of people's lives and relationships. You never truly know what's happening behind closed doors. This case is a perfect example of that: ambition, infidelity, alleged financial secrets, a tragic death. It all paints a very complicated picture.
You're absolutely right. And it brings us back to that question we were grappling with earlier. How do we move forward from a tragedy like this?
It's a question with no easy answers. For Andrine's family, the healing process is ongoing. They're dealing with the pain of her loss, the frustration of a legal system that didn't deliver the outcome they hoped for, and the immense responsibility of raising Elena in the midst of all this.
It's a heavy burden to carry, no doubt. What can we as a society do to support those left behind in cases like this?
That's a really important question. I think the first step is to remember Andreine not as a victim, but as the incredible woman she was. She achieved so much, loved her family fiercely, and built something truly special with Starlight Homes. Her story deserves to be told not just as a true crime case, but as a testament to her resilience and the impact she had.
I couldn't agree more. We can also support organizations that advocate for victims' rights work to prevent domestic violence and provide resources to families affected by these kinds of tragedies.
And on a personal level, we can simply offer empathy and understanding to those who are grieving, remembering that healing takes time and looks different for everyone.
Well said. It's also crucial to learn from this case. It highlights the importance of recognizing the signs of domestic abuse, the dangers of financial secrecy, and the devastating consequences of unchecked anger and resentment.
This case really underscores how much we need to talk openly about these issues. We need to challenge the societal norms that allow violence to flourish and actively work to create a safer and more just world.
I think that's a powerful message to end on.
Thank you for taking us on this deep dive into the Andreine McDonald case. It's been a journey filled with twists, turns, and some truly heartbreaking revelations.
The pleasure was all mine. And for you listening, remember, the pursuit of justice and understanding doesn't end when a verdict is reached or a podcast episode concludes. It's an ongoing process, and we can all play a part in seeking the truth.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep learning, and never stop searching for the truth, no matter how complex or uncomfortable it may be.